Hey guys, Dave Rogan Moser here in video number 7 of Facebook Ads Mastery 1.0. And in this video, the 7th and final video, we're going to be talking about how to fix underperforming ads. How do you make those tests and those tweaks if things aren't going quite right, or even if you want to scale and they are going well? And so we've covered a whole lot up till this final video here. You've built up your audiences, you've created great copy, you've launched your initial ads, everything is set up right. And now it's just about actually doing the optimizing and fixing underperforming ads to go ahead and go out there and get the results that you've really earned here. And so what we're going to cover in this training is we're going to talk about how to test new images, how to test new audiences, testing new copy, just some general ad guidelines on how to fix underperforming ads, how to outsource your traffic when you get to that point here, how to work with other agencies and some tips on that, the action items, and then we will be complete here. So let's dive in. So there's really kind of a certain series of changes that you need to make in campaigns here. And we always want to think about which changes are going to have the biggest impact with the least amount of work. And that's the question that we want to ask here. We want to make the changes that are going to have the huge impact, not just messing around with the little things here. And so I've kind of made an order of the changes that you should make here. And the first thing we want to do is we want to test new images. Testing images is by far the easiest thing to go do, and it's really the most effective thing to go do. And so just getting a bunch of different images cycled through, you're going to find a few winners. Once we kind of find some images that work, you're going to test new audiences here. That's also very easy. Probably what's a little bit more difficult to do is testing the copy, but good news is you can make probably 80 to 90% of the effectiveness of your ads. You can squeeze that out just by working on those first two there. And then kind of get the key here, guys, is just to keep testing and don't go home early here. It really is probably going to be a 2 to 5 month process of kind of tweaking a campaign. But after, a few months of doing it, you'll have a campaign that just can kind of run, not on full autopilot here, but can run without having to test and tweak too much all the time, and you'll have some real winners that you can just set up and run with only a few minutes a day of tweaking here. And ultimately, guys, it comes back to knowing your market deeply. If something's not working, the biggest thing to go do is go back, look through your customer avatar, survey your market, and kind of think, is what I'm doing hitting them deeply at a deep pain point? Or am I missing the mark with something here? Because if you're missing the mark at the core level, it doesn't matter how many images you test, it doesn't matter what kind of copy you test, it's still going to be off here. So how do we test new images? Well, it's really likely that as you test, 1 or 2 of your images are going to dominate the others. As I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on ads, there's still a few images that I have that for whatever reason, if anytime I throw them in there, they win. And so you're going to have some images that really rise to the top and are going to be hard to beat. And so when this becomes apparent, when you see some images, in the first 48 hours or the first 7 days that rise to the top, you want to turn the others off, and then you want to copy the campaign in Ad Espresso. This is after you kind of follow some of the vertical scaling techniques there and kind of get those images going as well as good as you can. You want to turn the others off, and then you want to copy that campaign in Ad Espresso here. And when you copy a campaign, you're basically just kind of restarting your test there. And so what I like to do, you copy the campaign, it keeps all the settings exactly the same, but then you want to go and you want to keep the top 1 or 2 images and then add in 2 new, very different images. And the top 1 or 2 become the control, and the 2 other images become the testers that you're kind of testing against that. And so, go do that, copy the campaign, but before launching the campaign, make sure you kind of trim the fat off of that. Go through and learn as much as you can about that first campaign, and leave the campaign on, by the way, because that campaign is still going to have some winners that are working. So leave that campaign on and create that copy, and just go learn from that, and, turn off some bad audiences, lower the age range, can turn off the bad images. Obviously don't run those again, and kind of trim the fat and then go relaunch that. And that new campaign is going to test those new images. And what you'll see is that you very well might have those same 1 or 2 images beat the 2 very different images, or one of the new images might perform better. And it's kind of this constant split testing, this constant optimizing that's going to allow you to have 1 or 2 images that work really well rise to the top here. So what about testing new audiences here? Well, once you find 2 to 3 images that work very well, it's time to test new audiences here. And so just make sure, guys, when you're testing audiences that you don't need to write down the winners, but you write down the losers. Sometimes if I'm not paying attention, I'll kind of run losers for a while, or maybe, there's a clear audience that's a loser and I'll kind of start a new campaign without even really thinking about it. I'll kind of throw them in there and then I'll look back. I was looking back at some campaigns recently and I realized I was running some losers, relatively frequently, and they had never performed well. So I'm just throwing money away because I hadn't been as diligent as I should have been with writing all that down and tracking all that. So write down the bad audiences and write down the good ones. And what we're looking for is that ultimate golden group. We want a population of 1 million winners that we can just run ads to all day long. Then take those winners and put those into audience insights and kind of learn what else is working there. I showed you that in one of the previous videos, how to use audience insights there. Once you find some other audiences, you want to go copy the campaign, follow the steps I outlined in that last slide there about images, copy the campaign, and then launch testing your winning audiences versus some new ones and see if you can beat those new audiences. We're looking for audiences to beat the control. And so that's how you kind of systematically test that and make sure that you're tracking that well and that you ultimately find better and better audiences till you get to 1 million people that are in a population, and that's kind of your golden group of winning audiences there. Make sure you're applying and thinking through the 80-20 principle there. If you focus on just optimizing the images and audiences, you can get 80% of the cost down with only 20% of the work there. And so test these diligently before going and messing around with anything else that's going to have the biggest impact for you there. But once you kind of get some images and some audiences dialed in there, it's time to test the copy. And, the copy doesn't have as big of impact on your ad, but it can have, definitely some big impact there. And so once you find those 2, it's time to move on to the copy. Kind of the biggest things to test here I found are long copy versus short copy. So go ahead and, test out your long copy, test out your short copy, see which one of those converts better inside of a new campaign. Maybe try a different angle. Kind of come at it from a whole new perspective there. Early on, as always in testing, you want to have very different changes. You want to have a very, 2 very different split tests, 2 very different variables there to get the best kind of results or the best test without spending a whole bunch of money on traffic there. Really, probably the biggest part of the copy is to focus on the first sentence of your top text there. That first sentence needs to be a hook. It needs to really capture their attention. The first sentence is going to have the biggest impact of everything on there. Test different headlines. Make sure those headlines actually match your landing page there. So maybe you need to change the title of your webinar. Maybe you need to just test, how you kind of present that, or some different language there, or kind of go back to your avatar and see is there different wording that might be more attractive there. So test that. Test workshop versus webinar versus a training, those 3 different words. Maybe you want to call it a master class or a live cast. Some different words like that, can kind of work differently sometimes depending on the niche there. But yeah, just go in and test, kind of systematically different kind of language, different wording, different copy for your ads there. But this comes after you find some good images that work. This is after you find some good audiences that work. It's time to go in there and test the copy there. So as you kind of get running, again, I think you can use these strategies to get up to, $500 a day, maybe even up to $1,500 to $2,000 a day in some markets. And you'll be able to make a lot of money just on your own here. But at some point, for most of you guys, it makes sense to outsource your traffic. But I want to be clear. This is not a replacement for you mastering it. Even if you have another company run your ads all the time, you have to be a student of this. You want to learn this. You need to know what's going on with your ads because you'll get taken for a ride if you don't. And ultimately, this has such a big impact on your business that you can't afford to just outsource this intellectual property and the knowledge of how to run your ads. You need to know how to learn this, and you need to learn this even if you're going to outsource it here. And so what does it look like to outsource it? Well, here's some tips for you guys just as you kind of look into the market of outsourcing. So as you outsource your traffic, there's kind of two ways to go. There's hiring an agency versus hiring an employee. Now, I've kind of done both of these here, and I've worked in this industry for a while here now. And the agency is the way I'm going to recommend that you guys go here at the start. At a certain level, you'll be able to hire an employee, but early on, it's just too hard to train. It's too hard to find them. It's going to be too expensive to go get an employee and kind of train them up. And so you're going to want to find an agency that you can use to go do all this. And there's kind of two levels of agency that can go out there and run Facebook ads, in my opinion, really, really effectively. There's kind of the level 1.0 agency. They're probably going to be about $1,000 to $2,000 a month, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. But those guys can run traffic really, really well. Now, if you find a good guy, you can get a real steal at kind of level 1.0 agency there, and they can get you up to spending, $30,000 a month, $40,000 a month on Facebook really, really profitably. Then there's kind of the level 2.0 agency. In my opinion, these are kind of the guys at the top here, which, start off at a 1.0 agency, but just know that the level 2.0 agency guys are kind of out there. They typically cost about $5,000 a month to $10,000 a month there. Kind of one of the better guys in the industry. I know I was having a chat with him recently, and he says he charges $10,000 a month to run for him to run your ads. And so just going to keep that in mind there. You probably don't need to start off with those guys, but those guys are out there. So just be looking to spend about $1,000, $2,000 a month early on. Most of them are going to have a 90-day contract, which really is kind of a good thing there. If the first 30 days can be rough with an agency. First 30 days, you're not going to get great results probably. They're kind of learning about your market. They're kind of getting your creative right. They're getting your language right, all that type of thing. So the first 30 days can be bad. So it's actually really nice that they have a 90-day contract because it keeps you from making gut decisions and kind of pulling out early. And usually, if you're not seeing good things by 30 days, then you might have made a rough choice there, but you should start to see things start to turn well after about 30 days. After 60 days, you should see like really profitable campaigns starting out, and then at the end of 90 days, you should have profitable campaigns that are really starting to scale up big. And if you don't, then again, the agency might not be that good. Kind of my recommendation for how to even manage an agency is to meet at least once per week and just stay on top of them. So once you outsource and hire an agency, know that your work is not done. That doesn't mean you're just done with Facebook ads. You can think about all this other stuff all the time. Really, for the first 90 days, I would say you still need to be on top of them, and Facebook ads needs to be one of your biggest priorities. You can't afford to just hand this off. It's too important there. And so, schedule a once a week call with them, track metrics with them, have them go through the daily tracking spreadsheet and fill that in every single day there, and just make sure that the ads are going well and stay on top of them and just learn from them as much as possible. I recommend that you learn and you ask tons of questions from the agency. Hey, why do you do this? What's your bidding strategy here? And just try to learn so that if anything ever happens to them, if they just kind of disappear one day, you are still in good shape and you have learned and you have kind of the intellectual property of working with an agency. And so stay on top of them, just learn everything that you possibly can there. So with that being said, guys, here are some of the action steps for this lesson. Make sure that you let your campaigns get about 100 clicks or more before making any big adjustments. Make your changes in order of importance. If you're not getting impressions for some reason, maybe you launch a campaign and it's not getting impressions, then just go ahead and create a new campaign and launch that again. And then track every change that you make, or I think you're flying blind. Make sure that you write down if you turn off ads and if you turn off images because they're bad, and just be really, really disciplined on that. And then just make your changes based on data. Make them based on the data that you are seeing right there, not by gut impressions, guys. And by the way, if you have any questions, you kind of get to the level of outsourcing your traffic there, just let me know. I know a whole bunch of guys in the industry, can make some recommendations as far as level 1.0 and level 2.0 agencies about who you should go with there. So just let me know when you get to that point here, and I will make a connection for you guys. So with that, guys, Facebook Ads Mastery 1.0 is complete. I've given you a truly world-class Facebook ad strategy that you can absolutely use to make 7 figures. Guys, this is seriously a plan that any Facebook expert would approve of, and it flat out works here. And so some people might do it different ways. Some people might have different strategies. That's okay. I told you before that this is like learning to sail the ocean. There's multiple ways to get there, but this is one way that I know will get you there and I know will be very effective. And so study this, implement this, and just commit to learning to sail the ocean here. And you can take this and you can make a lot of money with this Facebook ad strategy and this Facebook ad training here. And so again, final recap, what we covered in this training. If you have any questions about any of this, please reach out and let us know inside the Facebook group there. And yeah, so kind of the camp, or what we went over here in the lessons, we laid the foundation. We set up your business manager, your power editor, kind of went over all of that. Number 2, we kind of laid the pixels and custom conversions and audiences. We talked about how to create amazing ad copy and images. We talked about finding and building your audiences. Lesson number 5, we created your ads in Ad Espresso. 6, we watched and optimized your ads. And 7, we talked about fixing the underperforming ads and how to do all the tests and all of that moving forward here. And so this should be everything you guys need to really get the first campaigns up and off the ground and start making money. Final thoughts here, guys. It really is so important that you learn this yourself. I've been stressing that over and over, that knowledge here is power. It's like the old Schoolhouse Rock videos. Knowledge is power, and knowledge can really, really change. And so just, commit to a 6 to 12 month process of learning this, and you'll be in an incredibly powerful position as an entrepreneur, and you'll be very glad for the next decade that you spent the next 6 months learning Facebook. All right, guys, that is it. Now go make some money.